So last night I put some fleece that I'd carded previously into the remainder of the water of some vivid magenta dye I did, mainly to soak up the last of the magenta dye, and it certainly has done it. Look, so clear, isn't it? So now I'm going to take this out. See, it's got a lovely pink tinge to it, just a little pink tinge. Squeeze it out. I'm going to leave this one to dry, basically. Let it go now, just see, let it. And this is what I'm going to spin at a later date. Look at how pink that is, it's beautiful. Just a beautiful baby pink. And just do that. Okay. No pink hands. So it's done the job. Water, clear. I'm really thrilled how this has turned out. This is my homespun wild spun yarn from the Chibi fleece, and I've dyed it in 2 colours. This lovely green flash at the top, and this beautiful pink actually came from the dye water that was left from the Peie Pink and heather dye that we did in part 2, I think it was 2. Yeah, I think it was part 2, and which was called Lilac Heatherstone, and this was just the water that wasn't with the dye that wasn't taken up into the yarn, so it's come out beautifully, a beautiful pink. Now that's what I'd call a pale peony pink, and the beautiful emerald. But what has excited me more than anything is how much it matches up with this beautiful card that I was given by a little friend of mine called Hannah, who is a lovely little artist and has done some of the pictures that you will have seen in my art gallery, along with this pretty little one of a watermelon as well. Interestingly also, this time I used distilled white vinegar to get these beautiful colours. This I find really interesting because, you know, it's really more or less the same as using the citric acid. Obviously white vinegar is an acid, and the acid helps to strike the colour onto the yarn. So citric acid, white vinegar, they both seem to have a similar reaction. It's very interesting, that. So some of the colours I've done up to now, I might try with some white vinegar and see what happens. And this is the pansy yellow. I made it up again. And this is how it comes out. It's more of a lime green, so I want to call this a cyber lime. It's more like the leafy green should be. The leafy green is darker, more bluey green, but this is the right colour. It's got a little bit of variegation in it. Yeah, definitely this is the right colour for leafy green. I've found myself a pipette. So when adding black, if I do it a drop at a time, then I may see the change in colour as not so dramatically, so that we get this kind of greeny colour, cyber lime colour, as I like to call it. But yeah, no, that's supposed to be the leafy green. That's how it should look, the leafy green. So I am going to rediscover making pansy yellow at some stage, but I will use up the dye that I've got, that I've done this in, as the leafy green. That is just a perfect leafy green. Amazing, isn't it? So I wanted to dye this one Lilac Hint, which is part of my diaphanous range. The only thing with this was that the lilac was made up of equal amounts of magenta and cyan and 15 millilitres of black for this amount of dye. That was going to make it dark, I thought, so I put 15 drops of black. And yes, the lilac is good in these areas, but I thought it looks more grey than anything. So the dye water that the yarn was heated up in, I used the remainders of the peony dye water that I had left to just give it a pinky tone, more of a pinky tone, pinky lilac-y tone. So I'm thinking that's pretty. I like that. I'm going to wait for it to dry now and we'll knit it up later. So I had some pink left in the bowl after making the lilac yarn, and so therefore I put a couple of little mops into the dye water, the remainder of the dye water, and cooked for another hour. I didn't add any more vinegar because there was enough still in the water from my other dye lots. So as you can see, this has come out a very nice pale pink, which I can either over dye, which I have done with one of the yarn mops, and added a little bit of my emerald green to the bottom of it. In fact, actually, I used a jam jar with some of the green in the bottom and left it. I'll show you that. So I'm going to over dye the yarn by using a weakened version of the dye, diluted. So in this little jar, I'm going to put some of the hot water that is left in the crock pot. So I think I might just draw up about 50-60 millilitres, As you can see, it's very clear. Right, so that's the water. I'm going to use some of my green flash. And I'm going to put in 50 millilitres of the green flash. Check I've got, oh, I could do it a little bit more, oh, even less, make it 40. No, that's 50. Right, I'm going to add some more water to this because I want it to fill the jar up. 50 millilitres to 50 millilitres of water at the moment, so I'm going to put another 50 millilitres of water. I'm just cleaning out my, by doing this, I'm cleaning out my syringe. As you can see, it's a lighter version. Right, there you go. Put the lid back. Now I've got, sometimes I put the yarn in this jar, but because it's now soaked and dyed, it'll be a bit big for it. So I'm going to put it into this plastic cup. Okay, wash the little, oh, hot, still hot. That adds a little more to it. Okay. Clean jar. So now I get one of my little squeeze out some of the water and dip dye into the jug, so we have to be careful with this, so we don't want it all over the place, do we? See? And then hang it over there. And what I do is put it back into the crock pot with the lid on for about half while it's hot till it cools down. So I'll leave that to cool now. So I've done another dye mop with some fleece. There was quite a bit of the emerald green, the green flash, that was in the crock pot from cool dyeing, actually, some that hank of pink wool. In fact, actually at the moment it's in the crock pot. After about a few hours, it took up most of the green, but it was bleeding when I was trying to wash it. So I'm just setting it in some heat for about an hour. The little dye mop here is now going to go to dry. So what I usually do with that is roll it in a towel just to get the majority of the moisture off, because that's actually in the bottom of the bowl at the moment, so I'll have to squeeze some of that out. See, it's coming away clear. And then just hang it to dry naturally for a day or two, and then we will spin that. I think I might even do another fleece dye mop using pink, and this time hopefully I can spin it together to get a different sort of colourway. I'd like to see how that came out, wouldn't you? Now I decided to turn this upside down. You can see the green part at the top there. In the middle is the pink. And with the rest of the dye water, I've got the other end just dipping into it so that we get a pale green, a pink and a very dark green. I'd love to see how this comes out. Give it another 30 minutes and let's see. pretty tunic was created using the Chibi fleece and dyeing using acid dyes, and particularly this time, instead of using citric acid, I used vinegar, or white vinegar, distilled white vinegar, acetic acid throughout. Now from the front you can see variegation in the colouring. If I turn it round, variegation in the sleeve, and on the back more of the colouring here with this beautiful emerald green, this cyber lime, the mint and pale pink, baby pink, the pale peony pink, the lilac hint, and again the baby pink here. Turning the model around, we have more shades of the lilac-y, pale pink, emeraldy colours, oranges, heathery tones in the sleeve. On the front we have pale peony pink there, and a range of cyber lime, minty colours, lilacs in amongst that, the lilac here, and that's a paler version of the emerald green. This one involves emerald green, very pale peony lilac-y colour, and the minty colour here. On the sleeve, this is slightly different this side, with pale pinks, pale peony, orange, heather tone, with a little yellowy tone comes into the sleeve tone there. Again, pale lilac pinks and greens, but the yellowy tone came from this when I dyed with the dye water following doing the orange, and therefore you get this pretty tone, yellowy peachy pink, in the other sleeve to coordinate with it. Now it has a headband using some of the leftover colouring. The collar has a kind of a 60s vibe to it, and it has the darker mint as here, and in amongst it I managed, and with difficulty, to spin in some curly tops from the Wensleydale sheep that I bought from Sandy at the Sandy Community Craft Hub. It's a heather tone, and I managed to spin in the tops. You can actually card the Wensleydale tops. I have not done that yet. That's something I thought I might give a try to another time. There's a tiny wee bit of cyber lime that was spun into the yarn. And what I'd done on the front was different to what I did on the back. The front, I tended to spin all the colours together onto one bobbin. A lot of the others were done separately on separate bobbins and then balled up for knitting. This actually is a piece of boiled wool that I bought via eBay from an Italian company, and it has a jersey insert to it. It's very good. You don't even have to sew the ends. It's just like you just throw it on. So I made a scarf out of that. The rest of the material I made into a skirt for a relative. Yeah, so this is the new addition to our wardrobe for 2023, which will be, you will see this on the 13th of January, but today is the 31st of December. So actually it was finished today in 2022, but no, we will leave that for the January 2023 slot. And there's our headband and some pretty flowers. These are not real, these are silk flowers from the local garden centre of Well Park, which I just love the colouring of it. And doesn't it fit in so nicely with this?